Hello! Today, World Sociological Society interviews Joseph Cox. Hello, Joe, how are you?
I'm pretty good. How about you, man?
I'm pretty well. I've been in this bed since I woke up like 5 hours ago because I've been working on this personality test. So yeah, I'm a bit of a slob today, but at least I'm wearing a top hat so I can still look classy. Right,
hmm
question one. How'd you get into typology?
Um, Socionics.com. I got into it there. Um, Initially, it was mostly like a social thing for me because there's not really a whole lot of content there that's really super good. So I started out there, found that, and that's actually how I met Roan and Ashley. And once I started talking to them, I got a lot more into the theory side of things. Um, and I've pretty much just been interacting with them and talking with them since that, as far as theory is concerned, and then treating most of the forums and things as just a social outlet. And that's really how I got into it. I mean, there was an inciting incident that, and there's all that stuff, but mostly the reason I'm still around and still in the community is probably because of those two.
I see. So, like, what anchored you to the community was not necessarily the theory itself, but more your connections with people.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. It was totally like if I wasn't close friends with people who did this, I might drop it. Like socionics is a fun hobby, and I really like it. I think that it's valid to some extent, but I mean, part of it is for me. It's even when you're talking about theory, it ends up being a social outlet. Like I like discussing other people, and Socionics is a great platform for that, and I'm really glad that I have people that I that and I didn't have those people thing, um, then I probably wouldn't be here because a lot of the forums and a lot of the Socionics communities, um, like the 16 types, aren't especially welcoming or
Mm,
really comfortable places to
yeah.
interact in. So I could see myself just throwing my hands up in the air in frustration at that place if I didn't have those people.
I see. And so, what interested you in psychology in general?
Oh, well, a knack for it, really. It's just always been something that's been really easy for me. In college, I had a lot of these psych classes because I was a psych minor,
Mm.
and I wouldn't go. Like it was psych class, and it would be super easy, and then I would show up not prepared on exam day, and still end up getting like a B plus A minus in the class and on all these exams and stuff. So it's always just been something that's come pretty naturally for me because I guess I just psychology just gives you a name for phenomena that you can already observe.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so easy because like this is stuff you deal with, interact with on a daily basis. All you have to do is remember what it's called, and
Hmm.
to that end, like it's really interesting that someone is actually developing nomenclature for the things you observe, so that they can study it to a further degree and figure out how it interacts with other people and all that stuff. And I like that aspect.
Makes a lot of sense. It's not very
Yeah.
psychology, something which is already so natural to you. Like it's not even something you had to learn. You already know it, and it simply just puts it into words. So as a result,
hmm
it's so easy for you. I see.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. It's actually a lot that way with socionics too. It was just
Hmm.
like it described things that were I already observed. Like sometimes people interact in sort of these long-winded monologue ways, and like that's beta values is how you would describe that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I was already observing people who did that. I just didn't know that I would call it beta values and that sort of thing.
I see. Okay. Question two: do you work or go to college?
Right now, yeah, I just I quit my office job because I wasn't so keen on it really, and I just got a new job working with one of my close friends. at a photography place, and I'm having a blast with it. It's really fun. The best part is because like at an office, like you have one task every day, and it's the same task every day, and you have to do that task for the indefinite future. Like that's what you do every day, and I don't like that environment because when I get something done, like if you give me a task and I finish it, I feel free to do whatever, and I'm going to do whatever, regardless of what company policy is. So at the office, like I would finish my work, and I would get all that done, and then I would like open a book or something like that. Like I'm not bothering anyone, but I finished my job, and that wasn't so acceptable. And I didn't like that I had to find just busy work to do so that I looked professional when like other people come in. Like I really don't care a whole lot about putting forward a certain image, and that's what I really like about this new job I have is that there's not really a single set task I have to do. You sort of just end up in a building with a bunch of people who are all doing like way different things, and you can really just kind of go around and help anyone who's doing anything. Like you don't. I mean, obviously you get assigned tasks from time to time, and you have to carry those out, but you're sort of free to float around, and just as long as you're getting things done, that's acceptable. And that's a really cool aspect for me.
Exactly. So it's more about being productive over necessarily sticking to assigned regiments. At the same time, you it also complements a broader perspective, where you're able to do a large variety of different things rather than specialize in one particular thing.
Um, I don't know if I would go that way. I think the idea is more that I'm enjoying the autonomy. Like it's less about efficiency or this broader range of interests, and more about the fact that I'm allowed to sort of act on my own initiative, um,
Okay.
as long as that serves the company, sort of thing.
As long
And
as you
that's
find
pretty
that
cool.
there's something that you want to do and you have like the
Yeah,
freedom to go and do it. Yeah.
yeah. And then the greatest part about it is like sometimes there's stuff I don't want to do, like paperwork and stuff like that. But all my coworkers are just they're such interesting and fun people that like if one of them wants help with paperwork, I'm fine with going over there and sorting some stuff out because I'm gonna have a great time talking to them while I'm doing it. So.
That makes sense. Okay.
Mhm.
Um. Right. Where were we? Yes. So, what would you say is your manner, your how you behave when you're actually at work?
Um, Optimistic and energetic to a fault.
Hmm.
Um, Probably a bit fidgety, I've been described as. And I'm pretty sure when people describe me as fidgety, what they mean is like I just described, I kind of bounce around a lot and just go from task
Hmm.
to task to task to task. Um, but I do them and I do them well. So even if I am fidgety, it doesn't really end up bothering anyone.
Hmm.
Um, and it depends on the job. Like when I was in an office, I was kind of quiet and reserved um, because I wasn't comfortable there, and it wasn't really the environment I liked.
Hmm.
And when I'm in a job I like, I can get pretty loud and animated, out there and that sort of stuff. Well,
I see.
yeah, yeah. Like when actually no, I was pretty loud in the office too. You yelled at me at least once a day.
Okay. All right. So, in other words, you're someone who very much desires their autonomy and goes about things with a very, very high level of energy.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Autonomy and being able to follow my
Mm.
just match find tasks that match my energy level, even though it
Hmm.
fluctuates, which is great when there's a lot of tasks.
Mm. Okay. What would you like to do instead?
I'm not sure really. I mean, I have hobbies. I've always wanted to do stand-up comedy, and that's something that would be great if it were monetarily worthwhile for me to do. But right now, I'm really just having a good time working with friends on the various projects that they're doing. Like that's fulfilling to me. Like I like helping out the people close to me with what they are trying to do.
Mm. Okay. How do you behave at home or when you're on your own?
I'm I'm never at home. Like, I am very rarely there. I'm almost always hanging out with a friend or at work or working on something or doing something. Like, even now, we're doing this interview and I'm in a grocery store. Like, I don't really, I don't really spend a whole lot of time at home. Um, and I mean, when I am there, I guess I'd probably just sleep. And what did I do yesterday? I slept and I got on my computer and talked to people on AIM. And that's when I'm at home. That's pretty much typical. But I'm
Mhm.
not often there. Like, I'm usually out doing something, hanging out with a friend, choreograph. Me and one of my the guy I'm working with at the photography thing. We've been having such a blast the last couple of days. 2 days ago, we choreographed a was it walking stick versus two canes
Mhm.
stage combat fight for no reason. We didn't have a show we had to go it out for. It's just like, hey, we haven't done stage combat in a while. You want to choreograph a fight? Yeah. So that's what we did. And, that was a lot of fun. And
Mm.
we've been learning this weird. I can't find the video right now, but this chick is dancing to this song, and it's like the worst dance ever. Like, she's not using her arms, and she's just hopping around and like letting them flail and stuff. So we were like, we've got to learn that dance. We
Yeah.
must, so that we can show it off in public.
Mm. Yeah.
And
Basically,
then
also,
what's that?
yeah, basically high level activities, so much so you rarely spend time at home. Instead, you're constantly doing activities outside the home.
Yeah, yeah. Like 2 weeks ago, I was probably. I mean, I wasn't home for a week. Like, I was just sort of going from friend's house to friend's house, sleeping on couches, and I had my toiletry bag and my extra clothes, and there was nothing at home I needed to do, and
Yeah.
people didn't care if I crashed on their couch, so I just was like, all right, let's play LOL until we fall asleep, or like, let's do whatever, and then
Mm.
if you have stuff to do tomorrow, I'll just go hang out at someone else's house, whatever.
So very, very socially oriented lifestyle as well.
Yeah, yeah. It's not always that way. Like, I certainly get into these states of mind where engage the people around me to the degree I should for my own mental health, and it can kind
Mm.
of get me into these depressed, lonely sort of states where I don't feel like I have a lot of people to talk to or things like that. But that's
Mm.
ultimately every time that's completely my fault. Like, my friends are, they're my friends. I picked them same as they picked me. Like, they would be there for me if I wanted them to be. It's just that I get into these moods where I forget to contact them or something like that, and then I'll get stressed out and not really feel like I have a good communication outlet in any sense of the word. Like, not
Mm.
even at work or anything like that, and that affects me really negatively. So I'm sort of coming out of one of those phases right now where I realize that I should be social, and I'm much happier when I am. So I'm making a good effort to keep that in mind and keep engaging the people around me. And thankfully, I mean, not even thankfully, I just every time I do it, I just wonder why I ever quit. Like, what
Mm.
happened? Because, like, my friends are such cool people, and I love all the shit we do. Like, why did I ever think I couldn't or shouldn't talk to these people, or what was wrong with me? Like, what sort of depressed mood was I in where I didn't want to reach out? Like, it's never their fault, but I'm always so grateful that they're just as awesome when I come back, and they generally don't slight me for my absences or my moods and things like that.
I see. Yes. In other words, when you're in a darker mood, you can find yourself not contacting people so much, but your natural state, one which you feel most at home in, is one you actually are engaging with people, and you feel as if when
Yeah.
you do withdraw from people, you find yourself being deprived of that sort of social interaction.
Yeah, really, and that's not a good place for me. Like, if I don't feel like I have friends or people that I can just go out and do stuff with, like, I end up um, doing things that are pretty detrimental for my own both physical and mental well-being.
Mm.
And it's like on the one hand, it's cool that I can handle that sort of stuff and like I can inflict this sort of damage on me and end up being fine once it's all over. But I'm not kind to myself when I'm in a bad mood. I'm
What
really
do you
not.
mean?
Well, there's like there's the physical aspect where like I've dealt with addiction in the past, and
Mm.
a big part of even getting into a place where I could rely on this sort of more detrimental consumption-related ways of dealing with your problems was because I was in such a dark spot.
Mm.
And that can sort of happen. Like and that's I also get extremely self-critical if I don't have social outlets, like,
Yeah.
and that ends up affecting my mood. Um, and I tend to not do anything or be very active, and that is like I'm not doing stuff. What's wrong with me? Like there's nothing really going on in my life, and I'm extremely self-critical, and like maybe I'll do this self-harm thing, and it ends up just being a very dark place. And
Mm.
every time, every time, and I don't want to say that so it sounds like it happens often, but when I get into those places, it's always my friends that end up helping me out. And then I wonder why I ever got there in the first place, because my friends are
It's
great.
it's like your power comes from your friends, and that without
Mm-hmm.
your friends, you find that you actually find yourself losing that sort of power and self-control.
Oh yeah, dude. Like if I was in a vacuum, like
Mm.
just I didn't have anyone to rein me in or to help me figure out that maybe there's some things I shouldn't do. Um, I would I would I would be a very different person. Like I would be much more abrasive, and I would probably like just be a lot louder and lash out at people, but in a lot worse state. But my
Mm.
friends, they make me see
Ah.
that I shouldn't be.
I see. Now, so you're someone who is naturally far more abrasive, almost rather forceful, rather aggressive sort of personality. And by being with friends, that stabilizes that aspect of you and makes it something which works rather than something which self-destructs.
Yeah, because it totally self-destructs. Like when I get mad at someone, it's like when I get really truly angry at someone, and it's not easy. It's not easy for me to get there. Like I'm a really hard person to upset, but when I get upset with someone, it's sort of I get into these moods where it's like I'm going to try and ruin some aspect of their life, socially, mentally, physically, whatever I can, whatever's acceptable, even at my own detriment. Like, even if it makes me look like an asshole, even if everyone hates me for doing it, I hate them enough and think that they deserve bad things to happen to them enough that I'm going to perhaps ruin my own reputation or do things that I probably shouldn't to achieve that. And my friends are totally people that tend to recognize when I'm in those states of mood and
Mm.
sort of, depending on the friend, they all have different ways of dealing with it, but
Yeah.
getting me to wait. And usually, if it's not even calming me down in the moment, but just getting me to wait it out, and then usually my mood changes on its own.
Ah, I see. So in other words, the idea of someone who gives you a sense of patience, a sense of actually waiting for something to happen later rather than acting, whereas you're someone who acts instinctively in the moment. Someone who
Yeah.
shows you how to wait it out until you've made a more rational decision. That
Yeah.
something which really stabilizes you.
Yeah, because I can be a really irrational person sometimes, and sometimes that's good for me. Like sometimes I go out and I think I haven't done anything stupid in a long time. I should go do something just to have some fun, do something stupid. And it might be something innocent if I'm in a good place, but a lot of the times that can be detrimental to just sort of act on your own whims all the time, because my whims happen all the time and they fluctuate so wildly that if I were to just follow them every time I had one, I don't know if my life would have any level of consistency at all.
Mm.
So the patience is well, not just the patience, but the being able to sort of think about things rationally and just talk out how I feel is
Mm.
it really helps me sort of slow down,
Mm.
which I should. I really
Nice.
should.
Yeah, you're like you're almost like a storm or tornado of activity, and you kind of, and as a result, you rely on your friends to anchor that a little bit, to allow you to stop tearing apart buildings.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
when I was in college, I had an ex. She treated me not the best. It wasn't a great relationship by any means, and that really upset me because it was probably the first like real meaningful relationship I was ever in, and I had all these expectations about how it was supposed to go, and I didn't really know if I was right, but I knew that I felt poorly, and that wasn't really how a relationship was supposed to go. And I got really angry about that, and really, really wanted to do something about it and hurt my ex. Sort of like, um, maybe ruin grades, try and make love with her when she was trying to do homework, things like that, just to like make her life a little more difficult, like
Yeah.
these petty little things, and because it wasn't like was just trying to do these little things, and um, my best friend in college, we sat down and we talked about it. He's like, I understand, and you're in the right. Like, she is treating you very poorly, but you need to just calm down a little bit, take some breaths, wait this out for a couple of days and see how you feel then.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
and that was, that worked. That actually worked a lot of times in that relationship until until I finally snapped because I didn't realize I should have just left the relationship. I just kept trying to make it
Oh.
work, and then I snapped.
Yeah.
Things
So
went south.
it actually goes on to one of our next questions. So, what your approach is to a romantic relationship?
Well, I try. Um, my idea of I try to get it right. Really,
Mhm.
like every time I get into a relationship, and I don't often. Like I'm not a player. Like I don't float around from relationship to relationship. I usually get invested into like one person, invest a lot of myself into them and my time into this relationship, and then when it doesn't work out, I don't date. Sometimes for years at a time, just because I'm not interested. It's not even like a jaded, bitter thing. Like it didn't really work with that person, and I'm not really interested in trying to make it work again. And then until I get into that mood again, um, once I do, after a couple of years or a year or whatever, how long it takes me to sort of decide that I care about a relationship again, then I'll do all the same stuff. I'll pick up all my relationship books again, and I'll start putting in all the effort I can to make the relationship work. Like if I decide to be in a relationship, I want it to be a good one, and I want like everything to. I put as much effort in as I can, and the thing that bugs me most is when that effort is either not respected or noticed, or not,
Mhm.
or it seems like the other person just completely isn't even interested in that aspect of it. Like
Mm.
I think trying to make things work is probably the most important part over like um, emotionality, um, which was a problem with one of them. Like I don't think being expressive for the sake of being expressive is really what I want in a relationship.
Mm.
Like I think you should be considerate of the other person and try to keep their motivations and desires in mind. And sometimes that means subliminating that own emotional aspect that you may have or the anger you may have
Mm.
towards them. And not everyone that I've dated has been able to treat me that way, even though I've tried to treat them that way. And usually what happens when that occurs is I get fed up and start giving it back tenfold. Like, I'll be like, all right, fine, you're not going to be a good person, you're not going to put effort into this relationship, I'm going to start doing that 10 times. Let's go down Shade Creek. You asked for it, we're headed there. And then obviously it doesn't work out.
So is it, before you said about sublimating anger towards someone, so that means that that means showing the negative parts.
Yeah, and I mean, you should be free to show those negative parts, but you should also be conscious of when it's appropriate to do so.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, say I have tomorrow, I don't, but say tomorrow I have the hugest audition I'm ever going to have. I've been preparing for this shit for weeks, right? All I want to do is get a decent night's sleep so that I know I'm in the right state of mind when I have my monologue. And then if I'm with someone, and this actually happened, where they wake me up at 4 in the morning and won't stop texting me because they have some little inane bullshit with their math homework, or like they're upset because of something I said a week ago, like, I don't appreciate that. I get that they're entitled to their feelings and they're entitled to critique me. We're in a relationship. This is something we should both work on. But if they're not conscious of like my state of mind for something that's so important to me, that's really frustrating. Like, that's something that could have easily waited like 10 hours. Like, just wait 10 hours, let me get through this audition, and then we can have this sort of emotionally charged discussion. Because then if we have it before, suddenly I'm in this weird fucking state of mind thinking about this fight I'm having with my significant other when I'm trying to nail this audition, and that's just not cool. I don't like that.
It's like, in other words, it's more about each individual's personal feelings plus a greater sense of a causal efficacy, where it's simply not productive to just blend each other's emotions to each other. Instead,
like allowing people to be an individual and not being a detriment to that when it's important not to be. And not everyone gets that.
Okay. Where were we? Oh yes. You already said plenty about how you are with friends. How are you with family?
Good. I'm you know, I was an only child growing up, so I'm really close with my mom. Huge mama's boy. She's off the charts. Like, I love my mom. Don't insult my mom. I'm that guy that's like, don't make mama jokes. Like, she's my mom. Take that shit seriously. And then the rest of my aunt, it was a large part of my upbringing too. And I'm still pretty close with them. And then outside of that, like, I don't have a huge family. My dad's side of the family is all pretty much dead. So I'm the last Cox in that regard. At least the last male Cox. I think I have a cousin somewhere that might be a Cox. But, you know, and then so I had really a small family growing up. But I was close with them. I tell my mom, you know, pretty much everything. And then my stepdad, he and I kind of, we butt heads from time to time. That's, you know, just going to happen because I disagree with his opinion on a lot of, like, political aspects, and I don't want to get into that. I don't want to disparage the man on.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I like him. He's a good person, but sometimes we butt heads. And then, other than that, though, it was really cool growing up.
You paused.
Regarding my family, like, is there a specific direction you're wondering about, or?
Oh no, that's fine. You paused for a second, so well, you paused, like the connection went funny, but that's fine. I think I got the gist. Okay. What are your hobbies and interests outside of psychology and typology?
Well, outside stand-up comedy, theater.
Oh.
I write and read a lot. Like I read all the time. I'm social all the time, but if I'm not being social and I'm still trying to and I'm not being self-critical,
Mhm.
despite my lack of sociality, I read and I love reading. I read probably 8 to 9 books a month, something like that. Like I just speed through them,
Mm.
and I write a lot. I write poetry, but that's really embarrassing. Like I don't have a sense of shame. Like I'm that guy that could just, what? All right, we're having a naked party, and like I'm like, okay, we'll be naked, whatever. Like I don't care. Like I don't have a sense of shame about my behavior, and I'm generally not. I don't feel that guilty about the things I do. But when it comes to
Yeah.
my poetry, I don't like that part of myself. I don't like that I write poetry, and I don't like showing it to people. It's this weird thing that I don't.
Is this private? Is it like private writing?
Yeah. It's like a place where I can sort of express myself emotionally
Mm.
and be sort of really exaggerated with it. I don't like really exaggerated emotionality when it's displayed, so it's just sort of a little
Mm.
private outlet for me. Um,
Yeah. It's like you're letting out your feelings for yourself rather than to actually influence the feelings of other people around you.
yeah. It's just,
Mm.
it's more about me sort of getting. It's like my way to introspect a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
Other than that, I love games, video games. I like strategy games. That's something I really enjoy. Um, I like, I love the competition. Competition is huge for me. I like winning. That's a reason I like games is because there's usually a winner and a loser, and
Yeah.
you can see your performance improve over time. I like exercising and being active, playing foursquare,
Mhm.
frisbee. Really, my interests and hobbies are sort of a function of who I'm spending time with. I mean, if I'm spending time with Roan or talking with Roan, then we're probably going to go for some walks, talk about socionics, play some games, maybe work on some brain teasers, do stuff like that, and that's fine. Or if I'm hanging out with my friend Chaz, well, we're probably going to go fishing. Um, we're probably going to play some cards. We're probably going to do stuff like that. And if I'm hanging out with Zach, well, then we might spend some time learning a weird flaily arm dance, choreographing some fights, um, you know, doing other like building stuff, whatever. It really depends on who I'm talking to.
As well.
I don't really tend to care that much about what activity I'm doing.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, obviously I'll have preferences, but generally it's more about spending time with whoever I'm trying to spend time with, and if they want to do something, that's fine with me.
It's more about the fact that you're being active with people rather than what you're actually doing.
Yeah, it's way more about the people. Totally. Like, I mean, sometimes I'll get in a mood where I'll be like, I want a video games or I want a socionics, and then I know which friends I have to go to do that.
Yeah.
But generally, I just sort of drift around and let my friends sort of take the initiative, and I'll just let them do what they want to do, and I'm pretty happy to join in and be a part of that.
Okay. Now you said that you read a lot. What sort of books do you read?
I've been working on philosophy, and a lot of the more I've been trying to look at intellectual books. Like I just finished the Thursday Next series, which was a fantastic series, but it was mostly escapism and fantasy.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything mind blowing. It was hilarious, but and now I'm working on, trying to be a little bit of a snob and work my way through. But it is a good. I love Thomas. I love Thomas so far. He's got a really unique writing. It's very cryptic, and he sort of like truncates a lot of his dialogue so that the characters know what they're talking about, but you kind of have to get to know them before you can guess at meaning, and I like that a lot. And Uh, well, I have Good and Evil by Nietzsche laying on my bedstand, and I
Mm.
pick it up from time to time. But philosophy is on and off. So if I'm reading for fun, I usually go for escapism.
Mm.
If I'm reading for self-improvement or because I wanna know why was Catcher in the Rye such a big deal? Like
Mm.
what the hell was with that book? Then I'll pick up like classics or something like that because I don't just read for enjoyment. Sometimes I read to figure out like why did people care about this book? What's so good about this book? Like what can I get out of it? Is there anything I can get out of it? Apparently everyone else did. That sort of stuff.
Mm. Okay. Yes, no, there's a good mix there of reading for self-improvement and also reading for enjoyment. And then most of your activities seem very so almost as if your main activity is very physically oriented, but then you've also kind of worked to improve your mental faculties as well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I tend to uh, gravitate towards the physical, and in high school, that was really, that was my shtick. Like I was the jockey one. I wanted to
Mm.
carry the track team. I wanted to be captain of the team. I did all those things. That was like my thing. And then over time, I've worked on my studies as well. I try to take a holistic approach to who I am as a person, and I
Mm.
realized that involves focusing on sort of more intellectual and abstract concerns sometimes. And I've actually gotten to enjoy that.
Mm.
And when I was in school, I kept my grades up. I was on the president's list. I was a good student, but my favorite classes still ended up being the ones where I was allowed to bounce around, the theater classes where I could do a bunch of physical stuff.
Mm.
But that doesn't mean I let the other areas of my life or my other classes slack. It
Mm.
just that wouldn't those weren't my favorite ones.
Mm. I see. Okay. What are you good at in life?
Well, I don't know if like having energy and like effort, being able to expend effort on a whim is a talent, but I can totally do that. Like I can solve problems just by like efforting at them. Like I don't know how
Yeah.
to like I don't know how to build a shed. But if I get enough wood and nails, I'm pretty sure I can get something that looks like a shed. And even if it looks shitty, I can make it not fall down. So
Yeah.
yeah, like that sort of stuff. Um, what was the question again? Because I had
Yeah.
another
So
way to
what
go.
else are you good at in life?
Oh, and I'm really, really good at sales, and I hate it.
Mm.
I hate sales. Like I've always been good at sales. Like I've even in grade school. Like I don't know if
Yeah.
they do this in Europe, but they'll give you these little magazines that have like all
Mm.
these chocolates and meats and cheeses and shit, and you like go door to door and you try to like sell these little random food items when you're in elementary school, which was acceptable when I was in elementary school. I doubt they'd send kids door to door now. But
Yes.
yeah, and I would do those competitions, and like I'd always perform well. I usually won, and then it just sort of carried on from there. Like once I actually got into like doing sales, I haven't ever really lost a sales competition.
Yeah.
I'm usually the top performer, but the thing is I really don't like doing it. It tends to like unless I really like the product and I really think people should buy it, like it ends
Mm.
up feeling hollow to me. And even
Yeah.
though I'm fantastic at it, it's not something I really enjoy.
It's something
Um,
which you have like a natural skill towards, but at the same
mhm.
time, unless you actually feel a connection to your product, it feels disconnected.
Yeah, yeah. And when I was in Chicago, I was in door-to-door sales, and I was doing door-to-door energy sales.
Hmm.
And I really like that was it. The parts of that job that were difficult for me weren't the job or the sales of the product. Like I liked the product initially, and I liked selling it, and that was great. And I put up good numbers. I was pretty much the top performer most days. Most people would close like 4 or 5 accounts, and then I'd walk in, I got 14, woo! And that was fine until I started figuring out how the product actually made money, and it was not really that something I agreed with. Like, basically because you're allowed to. People send out these letters telling you that you can get cheaper energy. Everyone throws them away because they look like advertisements. So my job was to go door to door and make sure that people did this. And I felt great about it because I was saving people money. Like, that was the only thing I was doing. I was saving people money and increasing market share from my supplier. And that was fine until I realized that the type of people who we were helping were the people who weren't reading those letters and didn't really care much about their energy bill. So I would sign them up and tell them that this is a free program. You can cancel at any time. If the rate, if other companies have a better rate, take it. But those are the sort of people who won't pay attention to other companies' rates, and I'm just signing them up for something that they really, like, I'm selling them on a product that they're not going to pay any attention to. And the only way for it to work out well for them in the long term is if they pay attention to it. And the type of people who would pay attention to that are the type of people who already signed up on their own. So, like, I'm going door to door, catching all the stragglers who don't really know what's going on, and that's not nice. That's not moral. Like, you shouldn't take advantage of people like that. And I decided I didn't want to be a part of it, and I left. And I've over time I've realized that I don't want to deal with marketing things that aren't that don't speak to me. Like, if I don't agree with the product and how it works, and I don't think I could use it or do that, then I don't want to market it.
I see. Okay. What are you bad at in life?
I'm really bad at introspection. I'm really bad at. I'm great at taking care. Are you still there? You're like frozen.
Yeah. Am I still frozen?
Yeah. Your face is not moving.
Oh dear. That's not good.
Oh well.
Well, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, like, I'm really bad at introspection. I mean, like, I'm terrible at it. I'm good at taking care of myself intellectually. I'm good at fostering that side of myself. I'm good at being polite and civil towards other people. I'm good at the physical aspect and taking care of my body. But I'm really bad at taking care of my own emotions. Like, I get myself into situations that I shouldn't. I'll fall in love with people that I really shouldn't care for. It's just a bad idea. Because of the circumstances, and I don't tend to slow down and think about what I'm doing and how it will affect me emotionally in the long term, and that's why I would get into sales, where I'm selling a product that I don't really agree with, like, because I never really stop and think about how will this affect me.
I see. So almost detached analytical reasoning over the long term is something which you can't quite do.
It's not analytical. Like, I can do analytical. Like, if you wanted me to come up with a budget or finances or something sort of technical like that, I can do that super easy in the long term, and I can stick to it pretty easily. But it's totally about the emotional side of things. Like, I'm great at other people's emotions. I can tell how other people will feel or are feeling in the moment, or how things will affect them. But when it comes to how things will affect me, I can kind of get a little cocky sometimes and think maybe I can handle things that obviously would affect anybody. Or maybe I won't even stop to think that this is a bad idea, Does that make sense? Did that clarify anything there?
Yeah. It's not so much a question of I think you're good with interpersonal emotions. You know how to affect someone's emotions. And you know how one thing may affect someone, how something may affect someone else. But it's a question of seeing how your actions in the here and now might affect things later.
Things for me specifically. Like, yes, I'm not good at figuring out how my actions will affect my own future.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Or figuring out how my actions are going to get me what I want. Even though I'll have a plan and I'll try and follow it and try and get what I want, like I'm not always like, maybe it's something I shouldn't have. Maybe it's something I don't have or want for a reason prior. Like I don't stop to ask these questions. I don't ask. I'm that scientist that will invent like something fucking crazy and never stop to ask if I should do this, but I'll ask myself if I can, and if the answer is yes, I will.
You're far more about applying the effort now rather than seeing what it's going to lead to.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. I tend to not be very like when it comes to relationships, I can sort of take a more patient route if I have to, if the circumstances demand it. But that's a tactical choice.
So exactly what you kind of need from someone else. You need someone else to say, that's not such a good idea. That's going to lead to things turning out worse in the long run.
Or even that's not such a good idea. It's not going to turn out worse, and it's not going to turn out better. But I mean, you can do it. Just nothing interesting is going to happen.
Yeah, someone telling you that you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Right. What brings admiration and criticism from yourself and others?
Criticism. It would probably be. I mean, obviously, it depends on which of my friends you're talking to. Criticism, I'll go into that first. That's usually me being sort of flighty. People criticize me for, like I just said, doing things that aren't necessarily the best idea for me at the time, and they know it, and I'll just kind of like, well, I'm doing it, and I'm like, all right, whatever, and, do your shit, I guess. It's stupid, but whatever. And I can, like I said, I kind of float around. I can be kind of random. I can get criticism for being a little fidgety sometimes, but usually that's pretty joking. Like, people don't tend to admonish me very seriously for that one. And I can catch flack for not following, not putting on a professional a face in an office setting. Like, when I was in an office, like they yelled at me for being loud all the time, because like I would talk to the people in the cubicles next to me, and like sometimes we would have like these loud, passionate discussions, or suddenly we're making like these jokes that are hilarious, and I'm laughing my butt off while we have the CEO in the room, and like they don't like that. So that can catch some flack sometimes too. I generally don't catch flack for my actual work. Like, I try my hardest to do good work when it comes to the tasks I'm assigned. Like, in fact, that's something I generally get praised for, is my work ethic. I have a great work ethic, and I usually, it shows. Like, I usually put a lot of really good effort and work into the projects I'm involved in, but at the same time, I don't tend to put much effort into the self-presentation of like the marketing my work. Like, this is the great work, and I'm a professional. Like, I'm like, I will put work into this, and I will make it awesome, but I'm gonna be silly and have fun the whole time. Like, that's what I want to do. The other thing is,
you kind of need your feelings to be the priority rather than the group image that's being presented.
Yeah, it's difficult for me to switch that around. I absolutely can, and in the short term, I will, if I'm doing it for a project or a person that I care about. Like, that, if I like somebody or I like the project, that's fine. I can do that. Like, I can put on that face and be professional. But for the most part, I prefer to be allowed to be myself, and then let my work speak to my professionality. Like, if I want to be that guy who's just kind of weird and quirky, and you're like, he's the fucking like best dude we have at this thing, and I like, really, it's him, And then I want my work to be like, I want that person who's like, that guy's the good one, and I want them to see my work and be like, holy shit, of course he's the fucking best one we have at this. Like, this is amazing work. God, he's silly all the time, though.
It's not about behavior, it's about results.
It's about results. Like, do the job well, and that's enough, in my book. The other thing I get praised for is I'm a great judge of character. And I'm really good at getting people who will interact well with each other to do so and have constructive discussions. I'm good at mediating conflict when I have to. I generally don't involve myself in other people's affairs. I really don't care. Like, in college, I was that guy who everyone like sort of talked to, and I knew all the drama that was going on between everybody, and the only reason everyone told me is because for the most part I wasn't involved and I didn't care. Like, I don't want to get involved. But when I'm working on a project and maybe two people on the project or they've got some problems with each other, I can fix that. If that's when I'll involve myself and say that we need to fix this so that we can continue to work well. And that's about it. Otherwise, I tend to just let people have their feelings and be dramatic. And, if you want to, yell about someone else, that's fine. I have my own opinion about them, and you can do whatever you want. And I'm not really going to get involved that much or care or take sides unless there's a really good reason to get you both to calm down. I'm probably not going to get involved.
I see. Okay. Describe your ideal place, setting, or world. Describe its atmosphere and surroundings, its inhabitants, and the conversations and philosophy.
It's like, even in theater, it's always environments where there are various people working on various tasks that I'm either able to float around and engage or able to float around and help with their tasks. Like, when I was in theater in college, everyone hangs out in the cast room when they're not on stage. But I hung out in the costume shop because I liked being around all the costumers. They were always doing something. They're always like working on stuff, and that's the sort of environment I like to be in, where like people are doing things, and it's not strictly social, or simply about like joking around or building a rapport with people, or the camaraderie. The camaraderie is certainly something I enjoy, but I like the aspect of like a bunch of various tasks going on that I can help with. And my ideal sort of world would be one where I am surrounded by my closest friends, and we are working on a project that is meaningful and large and varied in what needs to get done on it. Like, I really like those. I like investing myself in doing tasks, and I like it when I get to do that with the people I enjoy being around.
I see.
As far as philosophy goes, it would, I don't know, it'd probably be like, work hard, play also. I mean, I don't know, just don't work until it's done. Don't work until you're done. That's sort of a philosophy of mine.
Okay.
That sort of thing. And then when you are not working, you should allow yourself the time to relax and wind down and all those things. And I guess I haven't really put much thought into my own philosophical views on people and groups and all that stuff. Like, I don't like it when people are petty, in any, or like emotionally, intellectually, or like as far as tasks needs to get done. Like when people focus on insignificant details, that bothers me. I think that I would like a philosophy where people can sort of freely do things the way that they want to do them, as long as the results are there. Like, I don't care how anyone does anything so long as it works the way it's supposed to and is what works for the project.
Yes.
So it'd be a philosophy involving autonomy, really.
Yeah. What works for each person?
And you should be allowed to do that. I mean, if you have to, I don't know, what's something weird? If you have to, that's happened to me. That's a weird actor thing. It's sort of like, okay, that's a bad example. I wouldn't want Like, if you have to go backstage and meditate before every show, like, then you should be allowed to do that. Like, in order to put on a good performance, if that's what you have to do is skip warm-ups and go do that, then you should go do that. You don't, like, I don't think you should be, like, mandatorily involved in these group activities just because this is what works for most people. Like, if something works better for you and you know it, go do it. And you shouldn't be criticized for that.
Yeah. So each person should be afforded their own process, as opposed to just joining in what the group has decided as the way of doing things. Okay. Describe a bad place or situation where you feel hopeless in fear and insecure. What would be causing these insecurities?
Well, let me think of a story here where that has happened, because there are plenty of them. Places where I mean, with my office job, it was where I didn't have any autonomy. I wasn't able to be an individual. I had to toe the line. I had to be quiet. I had to. I couldn't pursue any interests of my own, even when I completed the work that was given to me, and even when there was no other work to be done. Like, that was really straining on me, and I did not like it. I really, really hate being in environments where people are just sort of talking about what work they're doing, or theorizing about how to do the work, or like things like that, or talking about, like, if it, like, you know how in theater directors give notes after a show, right?
Yeah.
That really bothers me. I hate that shit. That bugs the shit out of me, because invariably you end up sitting there for like an hour, and you maybe get 3 or 4 notes over the whole hour, and you've got to sit there and listen to everyone else justify these weird acting decisions they made, which is fine. You're allowed to make weird acting decisions, but it just like, that bugs me. Like, when the director is talking and giving notes, you shouldn't talk. Like, this is all about you getting your note and then going on and fixing it. Like, if you want to have a discussion with them about the choices you're making, you should do that on your own fucking time. I don't want to sit here and hear you justify the fact that you think your character should look at the floor, which is stupid, because no one can see your face then. Whatever. I don't care. I want my notes, and I want to go home and work on my stuff.
I feel I can relate something similar with when I'm doing my acting. Usually, if I only play a small role, I kind of just want to be given the few little scraps of notes that they've been given, rather than having to sit and listen to everyone go through all their stuff, which is their problem, isn't mine.
And right, like that. I don't like that. That isn't a dark place like you mentioned, but it's a very frustrated place for me. And I thankfully I've never blown up on a director, but every time that happens, like, and that's the worst, when directors give out like an hour and a half or an hour worth of notes the night before opening. I'm like, bro, the show is solidified at this point. You can't fucking get them to change what they're doing now.
Directors almost always panic a little bit before the opening night. That always happens.
They always do that. You do, and I'm just like, and when I direct, I'm totally like, the night before opening, like, your job as a director is to not show that you're panicking. Of course you're panicking, but not show it.
Yeah.
Like that last night, your job is to get all the cast there and make everyone feel good about what they're doing and get them excited for opening. Like, because if you tell them what that one choice they made is shit and they need to change it before tomorrow, like that's what they're going to be thinking about. They're thinking like, okay, that
And
choice was shit.
all they're
I'm
going to
not
do is think
confident.
about that rather than the stuff they've already done. That's brilliant.
Yeah, you should just like
Yeah.
the last night before a performance should just be like, hey guys, good job, great
Yeah.
effort. Increase the volume a little bit, everybody across the board. You're a little quiet.
Yeah.
Other than that, we've got a great show. I'm really excited to see it tomorrow, and that should be the notes. You shouldn't be dealing with like these technical things, like, and if you are, that's just an inefficiently run production. You've done something wrong. You didn't catch something when it was appropriate to catch it, and you can't fix it now. You fucked up, and I don't like that.
Yeah, you can't burst the morale just for the opening night because that's gonna
Yeah,
lead to a bad. Yeah, I
and
mean,
it's
what I will say is though with note giving, and there's some plays where it is incredibly important for everyone to be on board in every single part of a note part of note giving because it also relates to what they're going to do on stage at the same time. But I think
yeah, like
it depends on
crowd
the case
scenes
by
and
case.
stuff like that. You mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like when it's ensemble pieces,
Yeah,
or when it's
yep,
just literally, if you are on stage at the same time that someone else is doing something, then it really is a team effort, and
yeah.
their slight moderation will affect what you're going to do, and etc.
Mhm.
So there's like that aspect, but in the same time, if it's where sort of play where it's just one person on stage and you're complete, if you're, okay, if there's a note to cast and then there's like a note to like the band, you don't want to be in the band sitting listening to notes for cast. It's a complete waste of your time.
Yeah, yep. And then as far as dark places go, it would be like I mentioned earlier, when I feel like
Yeah.
I'm alone, when I feel like I don't have people to talk to, um,
Mm.
when I get depressed and self-critical, when I'm not really engaging anyone socially and I'm not working on anything project-wise or even trying to improve myself, that's a dark place.
Mm. Okay. Right. Describe a good time where you really enjoyed yourself.
I had a great time choreographing that walking stick v two canes fight. That was a lot of fun. That was probably the most recent time I had a blast. Uh,
Mm.
I wanted to do double quarterstaff, but we don't have anything long enough, so we had to adapt a lot of the choreography, and that was really cool. And
Mm.
we also, um, my friend and I had the same fight choreographer through a lot of our college career. So we know a lot of the
Yeah.
same moves, and we've been doing a lot of the same stuff for a long time. And that was when we choreographed our fight. Obviously, we used weapons that were a little different than what would show up on stage. So we had to create a lot of the movement and figure out how to keep it safe and keep it realistic. And that was a really fun time. I really enjoyed that. And I'm having like at my new job, I'm having a really good time with sort of floating around and working on all these projects. I really like that there's so much going on and that everything is different all the time, and that you can just, as long as you're doing a job or helping people or completing, a task you have assigned to you, I like that.
Mm. Okay. Finally, what do you feel about the world we live in? What are your
Oh,
opinions, affirmations, and criticisms of the present day and the people in it?
um, I I tend not to reflect much on worldly concerns.
Mm.
Um, I'm generally more focused on myself as an individual or my friends and the people around me than I am with like sort of the direction the world is heading or even my culture is heading. And I mean, it comes up from time to time, but it's not usually something I
Mm.
concern myself with. I mean, on a lot of levels, I think that, I mean, you have some sort of obligation to globally take care of certain things, like global warming. That's a thing that's happening.
Mm.
So, I mean, probably you shouldn't litter. Probably you should try and watch, emissions, and like that's a responsibility that you should care about for the sake of the entire planet and its future. But at
Yeah.
the same time, like I don't spend a whole lot of time like thinking about that. And if someone else isn't really giving much thought to how their actions are affecting global warming, then I'm not really the one who cares. And like that's
Mm.
kind of a trite example. Like if you were to pick something more dramatic, like the Ukraine thing or the Libyan government, my response is generally, um, I'm not them. I don't know what they're going through. I don't know why they're upset. Like this is their fight. I haven't been involved this whole time, and it's kind of it feels a little fake to try to empathize and bring attention to something after it's already blown up and say that this is good and this is what was supposed to happen. It's like if I wasn't there the whole time and I don't know like the problems of your people, I haven't existed in your culture, then like I
Mm.
it's not my place to get
Yeah.
involved. Like
So
it's rude.
you don't get caught up in some sort of big political opinion. Instead, it's more about whether you actually have a connection to the people involved, and if you do, then you can actually come to some sort of opinion. Without
Yeah,
that, you
or
don't
the
feel as if
problem
you
that's
really have
happening.
as much
And
place. Yeah.
because of that, like I'm not involved in global matters. Like so I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. I'm involved in
Yeah.
like, work related matters. I'm involved in like, a friend is having money problems. I'm involved in like a friend is trying to, do this or build a shed or, whatever. A friend wants to
Mhm.
like those are the things that actually affect me. I don't really have a lot of interaction with people who are involved in global politics or anything like
Yeah.
that. So it's not an issue that really crosses my mind up a lot.
See. Okay. So those are all the questions.
Cool.
Right, so we haven't got any viewers, but if anyone's viewing in the future, I'm going to give my analysis now. So please turn off your the video if you don't want to hear my analysis. Okay, Joe, I think that you are a logical, intuitive introvert. I don't actually. I'm joking. I think you're a sensory ethical extrovert. SCE. I just saw your face there. Um, Okay, I think that it's very, very clear that you're someone with a great deal of energy, of motivation, whose ideal sense of environment is one they're constantly working on things, putting effort into things. You're also a person who thinks you can make things happen just by throwing your willpower and energy at something. You can just, if you apply effort enough, the shed will come together in some sort of form.
I don't know if I think that so much as I know
You know that,
that.
okay.
I know that that will happen. I will effort this problem away.
Yes.
There's
Also,
no
there's
opinion. Effort
no,
greater than problem,
you
always.
got certainty in what will happen if you apply yourself to the situation.
Yeah, and like the big issue is like whether or not I should apply myself.
Yeah.
That's where I misstep.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say also, where you often tend to apply this energy is into relationships with people. You have,
Mm-hmm.
I would say that you what's very clear is a creative introverted ethics, and that you're constantly attending to your friendships and relationships with people. You got like your cluster of friends you go to, and you got a different friend for a different thing depending on what you want. So you got like a network that you set up.
Oh
This
yeah.
network not only is something which you benefit from, but something you actually thrive with. That it's likely that sort of anchoring, which without your naturally extroverted, irrational temperament would take over and lead you towards something that's more self-destructive. You
Mm-hmm.
see, your friends are a method of consolidating your power, as it were, or your will. There's also a sense of extroverted ethics that's strong but unvalued, and that you're someone who comes with quite expressive, you're quite charismatic, you're good at putting across a certain way of being. Yet at the same time, you do not value this approach. You don't like the idea there should be some sort of company image that should be put across. Instead,
No.
it's more about how things reflect with your own personal feelings,
Mm-hmm.
and whether if you're having fun, then you want to show that you are having fun, rather than just go along with a company model. And when it comes to sales, you need to feel personally involved to the product you're selling. You can't just put on a certain image if it doesn't feel completely genuine to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as mentioned in your political views and opinions, you don't just go with a certain group who are just saying this is bad or that is good. For you, it's far more about your own personal connection to the situation. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
have that personal connection, then you don't feel quite comfortable making a decision on it. So all this is looking like introverted ethics to me, as a valued over extroverted ethics. My extroverted ethics being stronger. We can see that also have a good mobilizing function, extroverted logic. There's a lot of sense of self-improvement with you. You focus on the results of things, how whether things are being done productively. You get annoyed when things get in the way of things being done productively, like group expectations getting in the way of you doing something in an efficient manner. You tend to hold the valued combination of introverted ethics and extroverted logic, as shown in your relationships, where instead of just um, attending to their feelings right now because that will make people happy, it's more about you got to take into account my feelings too, what I'm trying to do as an individual, and then we can reach a pragmatic result if we leave it until a little bit later when I've handled my project.
Hmm.
Now there's what was I saying? Yes, there's what you feel that you need help with the most is in the sense of knowing how your actions in the here and now are leading to things further down the line. You can almost do that more patient, more sense of foresight, where you can actually see where things are going in the long run. And so I can definitely see an ILI providing that for you. Your sense of doing things almost destructively in the here and now, if you haven't got friends to notify you, sounds very much like someone who is in need of a strong introverted intuition with a little bit of help in the extroverted logic here and there. Finally, we can see what makes sense as a vulnerable function in your introverted logic. You are someone who is very much about your autonomy, your freedom to do things kind of when you want, as long as it leads to as long as you are working hard at something and you are leading to good results. You don't really like the rules getting in the way, and you feel as if they very easily restrict you. They restrict your autonomy, and that leads to your deepest, darkest place. So overall, I'd say that SEE makes complete sense.
Cool.
Right, I think I've got another interview. I got my Skype call coming soon, so I'm going to finish the broadcast at least. So it's goodbye from me.
Peace. Have fun with your meeting there, buddy.
Thank you.